It was a cold November morning when Sarah first noticed the empty chair. The diner wasn't even fully awake yet, just the familiar hum of the coffee machine and the steady rattle of trucks passing by outside. It was always the same. Every morning, at exactly 6 o'clock, the old man would walk in, never in a rush, always steady, with his limp and his quiet, unassuming presence. He always sat at the same table. Table 4. He'd nod at her, she'd nod back. The routine never changed. But today, the chair was empty. Sarah didn't know why, but she felt a tightness in her chest. Maybe he was just late. He'd never missed a day, not in the 3 years she'd worked here. But there was something about this morning that felt different. It wasn't like him to break his routine, not for anything. She glanced around the diner. A few tired truckers and some early risers already filling the booths, but nobody seemed to notice. It wasn't their table. Table 4. The old man, the one everyone knew as the quiet guy. The one who'd come in every day, sat down, and ordered the same thing: 2 eggs over easy, wheat toast, black coffee. Never spoke much, but always left exactly $5 under his napkin. Sarah had gotten used to him. At first, she'd try to talk to him. Of course she tried with everyone, trying to make connections where she could, but with him, it was different. He'd only nod, never say much. Just a simple, respectful greeting, a quiet smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. But over time, she realized something. He didn't come for conversation. He came for something else. Maybe just a little piece of normal. A tiny bit of peace in a world that had, somehow, left him behind. The other waitresses always made jokes about him. Creepy old guy, one of them whispered once. Doesn't talk, just stares. But Sarah didn't see it that way. She saw someone who had been alone for far too long. Someone who had lost more than most people would ever understand. She wasn't sure why, but something about the way he carried himself, the way he always looked out the window, as if searching for something, made her want to take care of him. 3 years. 3 years of this quiet routine. 3 years of Sarah VYing him the same breakfast, day in and day out. And every day, he'd leave that perfect, folded $5 bill under the edge of his napkin. It was his way of showing thanks, of showing respect in a world that often overlooked him. And it was his way of making sure she knew. He wasn't taking her kindness for granted. But then, one day he wasn't there. Just like that. He didn't show up. And for the first time, Sarah felt a wave of concern she couldn't shake. Maybe he was sick. Maybe something had happened. She told herself he'd be in tomorrow, but tomorrow came and went, and still, nothing. She tried to push it out of her mind, but there was a nagging feeling, a voice in the back of her head telling her that something wasn't right. By Thursday, she found herself setting the coffee cup out at his table again without even thinking. She told herself it was just a habit, but she couldn't ignore the empty space, the quiet, the absence of him. And then, on Friday, the unthinkable happened. She was wiping down the counter, pouring coffee for the truckers, when the bell above the diner door rang. Sarah turned, expecting another regular to walk in, but instead, 6 men in dress blue uniforms filed in. Navy blue, the kind of uniform that demanded respect. Their faces were serious, and they moved with a certain discipline, a kind of precision that only military men have. They didn't look like the usual crowd. One of them, tall with a square jaw and a commanding presence, walked up to Sarah. "Excuse me, are you Sarah Martinez?" Sarah's heart skipped a beat. Something wasn't right. "Yes," she answered, trying to steady her voice. "Is everything okay?" The man didn't answer immediately. He pulled something from inside his jacket, a small wooden box, draped in a folded American flag. Sarah's stomach dropped. "Ma'am," the man began, his voice low and respectful. "We're here about Captain James Carter." Sarah blinked, trying to process the words. "Captain Carter? You don't know any Captain Carter." "Yes, you do," the man said. "The man who used to sit at table 4 every morning." And just like that, everything changed. The box was placed gently on the table, the weight of it settling into the air like a heavy fog. Sarah stared at it, her mind racing. She didn't understand. She didn't know this man, this Captain Carter, but he'd been a regular in her diner for 3 years. He'd never said a word about his past. He'd never mentioned his military service. He had just been there, quietly, every morning. The man cleared his throat, his voice firm but gentle. "Captain Carter passed away Monday evening, peacefully in his sleep." Sarah's hands trembled. Tears sprang to her eyes before she could stop them. The quiet man she'd served for so long, the man she had never really known, was gone. "We're here to deliver his personal effects," the man continued. "He left specific instructions. He wanted them to go to you." Sarah swallowed hard, trying to steady herself. "But I never even knew his first name," she whispered. Commander Richards, the man who had spoken, nodded slowly. Captain Carter was a Navy SEAL. He served for 32 years. He led men into situations most of us could never even imagine. He was a hero. But to you, he was just another customer. He paused. He never wanted anyone to know who he really was. But he trusted you. He trusted that you saw him for who he was now, not who he used to be. The room had gone completely silent. Sarah felt all the eyes in the diner on her, but her focus was only on the box in front of her. The flag, the envelope, the words she hadn't yet read. Commander Richards gestured to the box. "These are his personal effects. He asked that they be given to you. There's a letter he wrote for you." Sarah's hands shook as she opened the envelope. Her eyes fell on the neat, careful handwriting inside. "Dear Sarah," the letter began. "If you are reading this, then I am gone. I hope you will forgive me for not telling you who I really am. My name is James Thomas Carter. For 32 years, I served in the United States Navy as a SEAL. I've received medals, awards, and commendations that now sit in a drawer, meaningless without the men who earned them alongside me." She paused, blinking back tears. "But you are the reason I kept going. The simple kindness you showed me every morning. You never made me feel like a burden. You never asked anything of me. You just gave me a little piece of normalcy, a little piece of peace." Sarah felt her heart break as she read the rest of the letter, every word hitting her like a wave. He had been so alone, so lost, and all she had done was show him kindness. And that had made all the difference in the world. The letter went on. "You may think what you did was nothing special, just doing your job. But to a man who had nothing left to fight for, your kindness meant everything. You gave me something to wake up for every day. You treated me like I still mattered." Tears blurred Sarah's VY shown, but she kept reading. "These items are not valuable in the traditional sense. The handkerchief belonged to my father. The Purple Heart. I earned it in a place I can't talk about. But I want you to have them. They're yours now. And as for the small amount of money I've left behind, it's not much, but I hope it helps. Maybe for your children's education, or whatever you think is important." Sarah folded the letter slowly. The weight of it was too much to bear. She had only known him as a quiet old man at table 4, and now she realized just how much he had meant to her. He had been a hero, not in the way most people think of heroes, but in the way he had lived his life quietly, with dignity, and with kindness. The diner was still silent, the weight of the moment heavy in the air. "I don't deserve this," Sarah said quietly, her voice thick with emotion. The young SEAL who had spoken earlier stepped forward. "Ma'am, Captain Carter saved my uncle's life. He was the kind of officer who would walk through hell for his men and never ask for recognition. But he talked about you, about how you treated him like he mattered." And in that moment, Sarah understood. She understood that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness, the ones that feel so insignificant, are the ones that make the most difference. When she looked up, the SEALs had already left. They had given her everything they had come to deliver. And as she wiped her eyes, she felt a quiet sense of peace settle over her. Captain Carter's legacy wouldn't be forgotten. Not by her. Not by anyone in that diner. The next day, Sarah set table for the same way she always had. She poured the coffee, folded the napkin just right, and placed the handkerchief under the glass top. She whispered softly, "See you tomorrow, sir." And in the quiet corner, Captain Carter's memory lived on. What do you think? Is kindness really enough to change someone's life? Have you ever been touched by a small act of kindness that made all the difference? Share your thoughts below. Let's keep this conversation going.